Welcome to the Heale live stream. This week it's going to be a Thursday live stream special. Tonight I'm going to be talking about mental health. I've got a few guests that are coming on, hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. Two of the guests I had coming on, in fact, three of the guests I had coming on have unfortunately looking after some veterans that are in trouble. So, but I've got a couple of other guests that are coming on as well. So, from this perspective, this end's going well. Let's get rid of some music. Take the music off. So, it's been a busy old week. Just going to just to put stuff into context. Let's just drop that down for a second. I'm going to pull this up. I'm just going to show you what this is all about. We have, this is the latest figures that I had from last week or from a fortnight ago. Let me just stop that from doing that for a minute so you can see it all. Right, since the beginning of the year up until I think that is January, no, February, 3rd of February. These are figures from the ONS, I think, up until the 3rd of February, showing the amount of suicides over since 2017 of veterans and serving soldiers that have taken their own lives. So you can see it's not a pretty sight, and if things go as they have been, we're probably looking at a similar number this year. I mean, it went up in 2020 and 2021. Yeah, so it seems to be averaging out around about 70, 80, 90 guys taking their lives a year across the services as veterans. It's not a good place to be. And looking back over it hasn't broken down where these veterans have served, but you can almost guarantee that they've all been in some sort of conflict zone somewhere along the line. So what we're aiming to do is to destigmatise to start with. We've already been a long way down that road of destigmatising mental health issues in the forces, but it's the old diehards. I mean, my generation have gone down the route of the just man up and get on with it, and I think that is part of what the problem has been for veterans. We have effectively, it's instilled in us to get on and get the job done, man up and just crack on, fight through the pain barrier. And that pain barrier comes to mental health as well. The amount of guys that, particularly over the last few years, well, prior to, from sort of, I guess, when did we go into the Balkans? 99, from around about that area, or sort of maybe earlier than that, mid 90s, 95, 96, when we were in Bosnia, and then it carried on then into Kosovo. Macedonia wasn't quite so bad, but during Macedonia, 9/11 happened, and then we found ourselves 14 years on the front line fighting a war in Afghanistan, and also in 2003 we found ourselves in Iraq having a ruck with him, and then we in 2000, I suppose about 2000, late 2004, early 2005, we found ourselves back in Afghanistan, down the south in in Helmand province. And initially, 2005, 2006, 7, around about 2005, 6 and 7 wasn't too bad. It was, yeah, I mean, it was rough. I mean, we're living in pretty grim conditions, particularly in the patrol bases and stuff like that. But it was a shooting war. They they were quite happy to take us on in a shooting war, which for us it wasn't too bad. I mean, most of them are pretty lousy shots, but it's the other side of it, isn't it? It's not just them being lousy shots. I mean, they were like falling plates. You get into you're out on a patrol and you get taken on by the Taliban at that time, and they're quite happy to have a pop at you, and they're quite happy to die for the cause, to be a martyr. Until we started taking quite large numbers of them, and then what happens? They start learning from the Iraqis and started putting in roadside bombs, laying nice little IEDs for us. So from that perspective, it it wasn't quite so much fun. And along the lines with that, I mean, over the years, I mean, the amount of guys that were involved in roadside bombs, shootings, and all manner of nastiness going on out there, um, yeah, it takes a toll. It has an effect on the mental health, not to mention your physical health. I mean, Afghanistan is a pretty tough place. Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoyed my tours out in Afghanistan. Really did have fun out there. Yeah, I called it fun. It was, for me, my job was enjoyable. I was working with locals all the time. Everything I did was directed at the local population. I worked closely with interpreters all the time. My whole existence out there was trying to change the attitudes and behaviours of the local population. And to that end, yeah, we had some successes. It was difficult at times. The hardest part was talking to the locals, trying to engage with them because of the threat that we had out there. It was difficult to get onto the ground and talk with these people. So what we did was we set up a radio. We set up what we called a radio in a box, and this radio in a box, basically, it's a 50-watt FM radio transmitter. It's got some media cases with it, so you've got a CD player, you've got a cassette player on it, you've got a mixing desk. You can plug a couple of microphones into it, and you can plug a laptop in. And what we did, we used a laptop, we used to load music onto it, and it was all local music. They liked listening to music that came in from Pakistan. I mean, the Taliban had been in there for quite a few years, and they weren't allowed to listen to the old music. But when we got there, we did some research. We found out what sort of music they liked. We managed to get hold of quite a lot of Afghan music that we put on there. There was some local, or there was some Afghan artists. So we 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 got their music. We got that loaded onto all these laptops that we sent out with these these rehabs, radio in a box. And my job was going out, installing these radio in a box, teaching the interpreters to be radio presenters, and teaching the guys that were looking after the interpreters that were being the DJs, the radio presenters, to be radio producers. So I spent a lot of time training people out there how the kit worked to start with, so they knew what buttons to press, knew what to do if it wasn't working properly. Showed them how to tune the antennas in, and made sure that they knew if it wasn't pushing out, to the things to check, and then I'll teach them how to do a basic radio wheel program. So the top of the hour you have the news, and we used to send a lot of news down from the main headquarters in Lashkar over the interweb that they used out there, and there's a little file that they could download and put into their radio program. So it'd be news at the top and the bottom of the hour. So on the hour and a half an hour, we also used to give them messages that they could play, that they'd slot in with their music, and we trained the guys up so they knew how to record their own messages if they got a local. Um, we used to encourage them to get the local, don't know what to call them, warlords, maybe the local councillors, the local leaders in the area. We'd invite them in, we'd sit them down, give them a cup of tea, and then let them record a message for their local people. And I'd show them how to do a quick edit on that, and to save it, and then to put it into their programming. So local leaders had put out messages to the local people, and and that was the way that we operated, and that was fun for me. I enjoyed going around, and I travelled the length and breadth of Helmand, and unfortunately, most of the time I had to get on a helicopter, and helicopter pilots out there tended to be a bit cavalier, shall we say. They would get in their helicopter and, well, look, perhaps we've been targeted. We'll throw it around the sky. So they was having great fun throwing it around the toy. And poor old Muggins in the back with all his kit is getting thrown around while they're chucking this thing around. I didn't like it. I didn't like being thrown around in the back of an helicopter. And they're dusty and they're hot. It's one of those things. Puts you off flying a bit. Anyway, so that's what I did. So I was right down in the south with in Garmacia, and we had quite a success down there. That operation, we were working with the Royal Welsh, and what we did with them is that they had a dedicated team. There was a captain in charge and a sergeant, and they had a couple of interpreters that we worked with. They were going to be the old smashy and nicey, going to be a couple of DJs. And when I got down there, they'd already had a rehab down there, and I checked it, and it wasn't tuned properly, and it wasn't pushing out past the wire. So after a bit of jiggling around, I got it tuned in, and they had some patrol bases that they pushed south towards the border with Quetta, and they were about 10 miles down, about sort of 12 kilometres away, 15, 16 kilometres away. And we asked the guys down there if they could listen in to these wind up radios that we were giving out to just about anybody that we came across, if they could pick up the radio that we were going out with. So I spent a week or so with these guys, training them up. And this afternoon, we just what we thought we'd just check it to make sure it's working. So we were on the air for about an hour, and that's all. So they went through actually broadcasting this program, and we just finished up, and there's a couple of guys approached the gate of this compound that we were in, and holding up bits of paper. So so the gate guard were a little bit wary of what's going on. Anyway, it turns out that these guys have come up with a couple of bits of paper asking for us to play a song on the radio for them. And we hadn't even gone live. And we were going to do a live show the following morning. So the following morning, we went on air at, I think it was about 6:30 in the morning. And we were going to go off the air about, I think it was about 10:30. So it was going to be on the air for about 4 hours, these guys. So they were putting this program together, pushing out news, and I was with them and making sure that they were doing everything that they should be doing. And I think it was about 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock. Somebody came down from the gate with, with a little pile of paper. He gave us this paper and said, "We've painted this in," and says it's for the radio. so, so we've gone through this, and it's blokes asking for songs to be played on the radio. Oh, this is a massive success for us. I mean, it's a measure of effect that you don't normally get. So we've done this for a couple of days, and blokes kept coming down with, and we had a little stack of paper with all these requests on it. So we were doing a request show in the morning and in the afternoon. We were putting out the news, and we were putting out the messages. And I said to the guys, "We haven't had any from girls, have we?" I said, "No." I said, "What's a couple of girls' names, Afghan girls' names?" So they came up with a couple of Afghan girls' names. I said, "Tell them that their brother dropped this off and ask if they could play this song for their girlfriends." Anyway, that afternoon we had about 24 letters from girls that sent in with the brothers to play them some tunes. So that was a massive success. And the week I was down there, we came out with, I don't know, maybe a couple of hundred of these requests. So that was a measure of effect that our radio station was working. So the sort of messages that we were putting out was, don't get in the way of the soldiers, let them get on with their job, they're there to protect you. That's the sort of message that we were putting out. And if you see any criminal activity going on, if you see any Taliban um, planting mines or anything like that, alert a patrol. And that sort of thing started to happen. Because they were enjoying what we were doing, we were giving them what they wanted. They wanted some music to be played, and they wanted informing on what's going on. So we had obviously local news of what was going on in the district centre down in Garmesia. We had a bit of regional news, what was happening up in Lashkar and around the area. And then we had some sort of countrywide news, so we were getting some stories down from Kabul and stuff like that. And then we put in some worldwide news, what was going on in the rest of the world. We put some sports news in there, so because people loved sort of British football, so we were telling them the scores of the what was going on the football. So our measure of effect down in Garmesia was great. I mean, we were getting feedback from the locals. They were tipping us a wink if something was going on. So we replicated that around the rest of Helmand. Basically, I was up in Sangin. There was 2 or 3 places I was in Sangin. I was up in Kajaki, up at the dam. I was up there. I spent quite a bit of time backwards and forwards to Kajaki and Sangin. I was in and out of there all the time, and I've seen a lot of stuff going on. Guys out on patrols and they're coming in after being blown up and stuff like that. And I was up in one of the patrol bases, and there'd been an incident. The guys had gone out on a patrol. They hadn't gone far from the gate, and they got blown up. There's a couple of guys killed and lost limbs and stuff like that. So when I came back in, I was there when that happened, and a couple of days later, the trim team came in, which is the trauma risk incident management team, um, and they got there sort of 2 days after this event had happened, and they gave us some information of what had happened, this, that, and the other, and then they put everybody that was involved in the incident, whether they were directly involved with it, and quite a lot of guys that weren't involved with it, but it had affected. No, it affected the whole base really, because they all know the people that was killed and then seriously injured. So they spent a few days assessing these guys, trimming them, and one thing and another. And then they were going to come back sort of 30 days later to do the follow up to see how these guys are, how they're coping. And this trim process is designed so it opens up dialogue with these guys. It tells them that it's okay, the feelings that they'll get to that it's not unusual to go through what they're going through, the way that they feel. And the way the process works is that the trim practitioners are recording what's going on, recording how the guys are feeling and stuff like that. They try not to open up the wounds, but they give them enough information to be able to talk about it with the rest of the people that are involved. So everybody sort of are running through talking about this particular process. So, and then they'll come back and they'll do a 3 month follow up. Now, the biggest problem that you get, particularly with the guys that are on the ground, in these small patrol bases that are being involved in incidents, multiple incidents over 6 months, is you can't trim every incident. But what they do is they let the guys know that they will see stuff. It is part of the process. And what they try and do is give these guys enough information to know that if they are not doing okay, if they are struggling, then to talk about it, to tell somebody, to pass it up the chain. And what happens is, it when the trim team come back in and talk to them about it, if they're still struggling, what they'll do is then they'll pass them on. They'll signpost them on to some professional help, and that's what the trim is all about. It's all about identifying an issue and passing it on to the relevant people, the professionals, to be able to help these guys out. And if you can catch it early enough, it doesn't manifest itself into complex problems later in life. We're still now seeing problems with Falklands vets. I mean, this year is coming up to the Falklands 40, and there's still Falklands vets struggling with what they did down there, struggling at what they saw down there. There's still Falklands vets taking their lives. There's been more Falklands vets taking their life than were killed down there. That's the reality of what's happened. They didn't have trim back in those days. They didn't have a way of coping with it. So what they did was it was that man up and get on with it. problem, which is why so many of them have had problems. And there have been a few other conflicts over the years. I mean, Northern Ireland is another one. There's always somewhere in the news of a Northern Ireland vet taking his own life because of what they went through in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland was it was a hard place for us because we never knew who our enemy was. So, from that perspective, they didn't have trim. They didn't use the tools in the box, and consequently, years and years and years after guys had come back and retired from the army, they were seeing problems with what they did in Northern Ireland, what they saw in Northern Ireland. So it's a crazy old game, but nowadays it's recognised and the problems that guys have gone through. Anyway, I've got one of my guests has turned up in the green room. So if you're up for it, then Harry, are you fit to join? I hope you're not naked. Anyway, here we go. Harry's in the room. Hello, Harry.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Hello, Tim.
What are you doing in all naked?
Not too bad at all.
What are you doing in your buff?
I put my stuff in. Oh, I put my stuff in the wash. Cover me nipples.
Oh dear. Is that ready for work in the morning or something? Is it?
Yeah, afraid so.
Well, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I heard the invitation.
So this is this one we're talking about mental health. And
yes.
Generally, and I mean my specific area on mental health is dealing with veterans with it, and well, actually, it was dealing with serving soldiers.
Yes.
When I was a welfare officer in London, I did that job for 8 years, and we had two types. We had the young guys that are coming straight out of training. Coming to the three incremental companies that we had there, which was 9 Main Company Grenadier Guards, number 7 Company Coldstream Guards, and F Company Scots Guards. Yeah. And young fellas tend to come out with their own problems, unfortunately. so, and their problems weren't particularly complex. I mean, we had a few that were, shall we say, challenging, that required some really professional help.
Yeah.
And then we've got the 5 foot guards bands, and the 5 foot guards bands tend to be the slightly older guys and girls. I mean, we had girls as well in the bands, and they tend to be musicians, tend to be more arty, more I wouldn't say robust, but yeah, they come with a different set of problems. Being older, yeah. Anyway, yeah. We've got Steve, the other Steve that's turned up. Are you ready to come in, Steve? Give us a thumbs up. Yep. How you doing, Steve?
Yeah, good, thanks. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Work just overrun a little bit, so that's me making my way back.
Anyway, welcome.
Cheers, mate. If it's all right with you, I'm just gonna mute my camera, Tim, so that I'm still on the audio, but that's it because of driving.
Yeah, fair one.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Let you do that. Oh, lovely picture. I'll remember that day. Well, so just to bring you up to speed, I've had the first half hour on my jack because a couple of the guys that were coming in have been called away to deal with a couple of veterans that are struggling. One of the guys is relocating one of the veterans up to Suffolk or Norfolk, and the other one is helping another guy out that's having a bit of a meltdown, as I understand it. So unfortunately, they're not going to be able to join in tonight, and they're a couple of experts on it. But you'll have to be you'll have to do with us. So
well, I've had my issues as well. So there we go.
Yeah,
Finally had to admit it.
you're breaking up a little bit, Harry. Can you do something with your
Sorry.
microphone? You turn it up.
Yeah, I said I've had my issues and I've had to deal with it. Still dealing with it. That's one of the things.
Yeah.
I'm on some tablets at the moment. Stop me being a bit aggressive. Seems to be working.
Oh, so that's why you find yourself on disciplinary action at work, is it?
Yes, normally. That's it.
So, and so you've been seeking some professional help for that, have you?
I have, but it's helped. It's helped quite a lot. But the few issues I
Is it
had.
helping?
Yes, yes. I mean, you were talking about Ireland and what happened over there. I remember I nearly shot up the other half of our patrol because they was messing about in 13. Pardon?
I said that might have been an error.
Well, they were messing about in Link 13, taking photos over the top of a rifle. And that was after Steve Foskett got blown up.
Right.
He got blown across the road, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I was still made ready. I hadn't been given the order to make safe. And as they pointed the rifle out, I swung round. Was about to I had the first pressure applied, safety catch off, and I was just about to let 20 rounds rip. All that saved him was Danny Burnett's cap badge because he never blanked it out. For that split second, the sun shone on his badge, and I stopped. And then I don't know who he was. He was a sergeant from what do you call it? Brigade. He saw what had happened and he came over to me and he said, have you made safe? And I said, no. And he looked up and he saw the rifle and he went, fucking wankers. And he said, right. He said, go over there. He said, make safe and then come back and do what you're supposed to be doing. I said, yeah, fair enough. He said, don't let them see you.
Inside the wire or outside the wire at this time?
Outside the wire. Yeah, I was in Leeson Street.
Yeah. I don't know why you want to make safe out there.
Well, no, he said to me because I'd make ready.
Run up the spout.
Yeah, well, he just wanted me to make safe in case something happened. Nearly did. And anyway, he said, right, he said, I'll have a word with you. He said, whatever you do, don't say anything to them about what's just happened. He said, you'll have to just take the ribbons and what have you until the end of the tour. He said, and then you can let rip into them, do what you like.
Yeah. And did you?
They kept showing this photo of everybody. Oh, look, we could have shot you. I've still got the photo somewhere. And what you can actually see is me dropping the rifle as I just finished aiming at them. And so anyway, we got back to Gillingham, and they was all laughing about it, saying, look, we could have shot you. Look. And I walked up to him and I said, if it hadn't have been for his fucking cat badge, you would have got 20 rounds into you, because I had one up the spout and the safety catch off, and I was applying the first pressure. I said I was just about to let 20 rounds rip when you shot that bloody photo. They all went quiet. I said, now take that photo and shove it up your fucking asses. And they all went very quiet. Said,
so that's kind of, that's give you a bit of a hard time ever since, is it?
It has. I mean, I was so close to shooting him. I mean, so very close.
But you didn't.
No, but it's played on my mind for years how close I was.
Wow.
It was a fraction of a second, and I could have let every round rip. I wouldn't have stopped until the magazine was empty.
But you didn't, and
no, I know.
You survived.
But it just shows you how close it could be.
Yeah, that's how close things can be out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it does happen in the fog of war. I mean, particularly when there's been a big incident, when stuff's kicking off. I mean, I've been in some contact situations where you don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, but we was just clearing up after Posy was being taken to hospital and everything. So they shouldn't have been doing stupid things like that around that area.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, and also with old Cooper 1-1, I remember seeing him flying back through the air.
Yeah. That's not Grasshopper, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't have a lot of luck, did he?
No, he didn't. Only problem is Catherine thought it was me, because I was number one on that gun. And
you weren't the number one, were you?
No, I wasn't. We'd have been swapped around. We were doing different jobs on different guns, and he was doing my job on that gun with Mel Marshall.
Yeah.
Corporal Marshall, and he still blames himself for what happened.
I'm sure he does, but it's difficult when you're doing drills like that.
It was a bit of a shame.
I mean, it's one of those things that's instilled in it. I mean, the drills sort of kick in. You're doing everything at pace.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get de-rigged and get out of there so you can relocate to.
Well, if you remember what it was, pardon me, we had a load of rounds left, but we didn't have any main armaments, so we were just messing around and doing
spotter rounds.
Yeah.
I mean, a 5.0 spotter round is
it's a big old round.
Also, I mean, it's half-inch round that's going down a range, and
well, he was what?
Actually, gets there.
He was only 4 foot away from the end of the barrel, wasn't
he? Yeah. Made a bit of an hole in him, didn't it?
Yes, it certainly did.
So, what was it, about 20 minutes they kept him going for?
Yeah, but
that was Cole, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Was that Cole that was doing it?
There was a lot of them doing it. All the medics were there. Even Nick Pollard and people like that. They were all helping out. The only thing that was holding him together was his webbing.
Yeah. That's probably why people still wear 58 pattern belts, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's about right. Holds everything together.
I could never understand that. I mean, even to this day, particularly, I mean, guards officers, they wear a 58 pattern webbing belt.
Yeah, God
Why?
knows why.
Why? That was
It was
horrible.
it was the most inefficient webbing ever used. It fell apart at every flaming angle.
37 pattern webbing was probably worse,
Yeah, but
but it was designed for a different era.
it was. I mean, with the
58 pattern webbing was crap. It was crap.
when it went wrong, it went wrong. I mean, it used to just squeeze together, and the little catches had come out, and then your bloody webbing bits would fall off. And you'd be running down the road going, "Oh, bloody hell," trying to get it back on.
Yeah. Magazines bouncing all over the space, mesh tin popping out, everything rattling around. Oh dear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I can understand how some of the youngsters now, especially in Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraq wasn't so bad.
Yeah, some of the newer kits, all right.
Yeah.
It's just, I think the problem, I mean, the problem you've got nowadays is the kit that they give you is heavy. I mean, you take the body armor with the plates in it, you're looking at 20 kilo there.
Yeah.
That's before you get a day sack full of ammunition.
That's
and
it.
everything else. I mean, all up, I was carrying 42 kilos on a foot patrol.
Yeah.
And I wonder why my hips and my
wonders for your knees, your hips, your ankles, everything.
I'm a statistic at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm on a waiting list to see a surgeon. So
yeah. Fun enough, Catherine's just been had a scan, and she's got extra bone on her backbone. It's grown extra bone for some reason.
Let's keep that quiet, as everybody want one.
Yeah, but what it's done is it's caused trapped nerves. So,
they're no fun at all.
No, well, she keeps saying, "No, I'm not going to have an operation." I said, "Look, unless you want the pain to go away, you're going to have to. All they want to do is take away some of the bone. They don't want to touch the backbone inside. It's just the outside. They want to remove a bit of bone." So I said, "It's just like getting a grinder out and grinding it down. That's all they'll do. I might not be able to walk again." I said, "There's a bonus. You get pushed everywhere."
So, anyway, what I've done is, let's see if I can pull this up. There we go. What I was saying earlier is the suicides that have been since sort of 2017.
Yeah.
And the numbers seem fairly constant. And it's predominantly vets that are taking their own lives.
Yeah. This is why a lot of vets' marriages fail, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's quite a few serving that take their lives as well.
Yeah.
It's predominantly army, I must admit. But even this year, the latest figure I've got is that there's 4 that have taken their lives, 2 vets, 2 regulars.
Yeah.
And that's too many.
Yeah.
But it's really difficult to work out why it's happening.
The thing is, they don't get diagnosed early enough. That's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying earlier how the trim process works when you're on operations, and when there is a big incident like that, you're getting the trim team coming in sort of at the 72-hour point, and they're talking to the guys, and what they're trying to do is ascertain how they're feeling at that stage, how it's affecting them at that stage, and then they'll come in 30 days later to find out how they're coping and whether they are coping. So from that perspective, the trim process should work. in effect, it should eliminate guys going down this road of getting the PTSD aspect years later.
Yeah.
So if we catch it early enough, talk about it, destigmatise it, to tell them it's okay to not be okay. It's not unusual for the way that they feel about these things. So from that point of view, it does work, I think.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what I was diagnosed with, a mild form of PTSD.
Yeah, I've seen some guys with some pretty complex PTSD issues that they've been struggling with for years.
Yeah.
And it manifests itself in all sort of manner of ways. I mean, guys go off the rails. They drink a lot. They get in the fights, and they really struggle with coping with their mental health. And it's all because that they weren't looked after originally.
Yeah. Do you remember Tony Mallon?
Yeah.
Well, he went quite badly after his patrol was blown up, wasn't
he? Yeah.
I think he went to the Isle of Man. They got a place on there at one time, didn't they? They used to sort of hide people away.
Yeah.
Spent a few months in there.
The Priory was another place that they used to send people.
Yeah.
Priory. And recently, I mean, I've taken the guys up to, forgetting the name of the unit, up at Peterborough.
Yeah.
And there's another unit up in Darlington where these guys go.
Well, back when it happened, Tony Mallon, that was in the early 70s, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
There wasn't a lot done to help them.
No.
That time.
But these things, I mean, it's a learning process all the time.
Oh God, yes, yeah. Well, it's not something that they can just go snap and it's fixed. It's got to run its course.
Yeah.
And they're learning that over the stages now. It's something that's got to be talked about and listened to.
Yeah.
And people.
Right. I just need to pop out for a second. So can you carry on chatting for a minute?
Yeah, I'll chat. Who's out there?
I'll see.
Well, here we are talking about mental health problems within the military and how now and over the years it has got better. It does need improving even more, but it's a slow process, but we're getting there, and hopefully it will help reduce the amount of suicides that are happening, especially amongst the younger recruits. You've got a lot of veterans as well that are suffering with mental health issues, and mine was only minor, but it was still a mental health issue. I'm slowly getting better, and I feel the more I talk about it, the better I feel. So if you have got any problems, it's good to talk. It really is. It's good to get it out in the open and tell others how you feel and what the problems are. And just a listening ear can sometimes be a great help.
That's it. I'm back in the room.
Oh yeah, just explain.
There, Harry. Anyway, what we see on now is a way of coping.
All right.
So this is, if you have a look, this is things that you can't control and things that you can control.
Yeah.
So if you start at the top, and I think this works. It works either way round. So
yeah.
things you can't control. how others feel. I mean, that's it,
That's so true. It's obvious.
Yeah, if you can't control how others feel, then there's no point in getting wound up about it.
Yeah.
And likewise, you can't control how others behave.
No.
And so, again, there's no point in getting yourself worked up over it.
Yeah.
And again, how others react. It's out of your control. So there's nothing you can do about that. Well, there is, but we'll come to that in a minute. And if others forgive you, again, that's out of your control. However, we'll come on to it in a second. And then other people's boundaries, how far you can go, how far they go. You can't control it. And the future. Well, let's have a look at the future. I mean, the future, we can determine the future.
Yeah.
We can work in the present towards the future. What we do now can have an effect on the future. So if we come down the other side, you can't really control what others think about you.
Yeah.
So there ain't any point in getting yourself worked up over that, but you can do something about it. You can't control what others say about you. Again, don't let them get to you.
Well, as I say, when they're talking about me, they leave some other poor bugger alone.
There is that to it, yeah. And say what happens around you, again, is pretty much out of your control. So there's no point in worrying about it.
Yeah.
And the attitudes of others, again, it's their problem, not yours. And then the beliefs, perceptions of others, you can, to a certain extent, have an impact or an effect on that, but that comes down to what you do.
That's it.
And then you can't change the past. You can only learn from the past. So let's have a look at the things that you can control. So boundaries you can set with others.
Yeah.
And if somebody is encroaching on your boundaries, then tell them that they're overstepping the mark. And this is how it is. This is where my boundaries are. Please don't infringe on them. So you can control that.
Yeah.
You can also control how other people affect you. If somebody is doing something that's winding you up, rather than let it wind you up to a state of frenzy,
Yeah.
the simple thing to do is to say to them, would you mind stopping doing that? Because you're getting on my wick. And if you carry on, something nasty might happen.
Yep.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I go all in and start thumping people.
I've been there.
Yeah. So, so it's when others, if I forgive others. So if you forgive others,
Yeah.
let them know that this is what you've done in the past, but I'll let you off it for now. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
That's something you can control. You can tell others that what they've done in the past, you've let them off. You've forgiven them.
Yep.
And then we'll come up, we'll carry on going round. Where I give my time and energy, attention, that's in your control.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're at work, you have to give a bit of time to work. But you can control what you do and where you focus your attention. It's not down to others to dictate to you what you do. You have control over that, on how you cope with that. And then it's how you speak to others. And
Yes.
that sometimes how you come across to others can start a conflict. And that's something you can control, how you speak to others. If you treat other people as you want to be treated yourself, talk to people as you would like to be talked to, and employ that, you ain't going to go too far wrong.
Yeah.
And then how you respond to others' behaviour. So if somebody's acting a clown, and it's getting to you, be polite and ask them to stop.
Yeah.
That's in your control. You can do something about that. So my way of looking at that is stuff that you could control. There's no need to worry about it because you can control it.
Yeah.
And stuff that you can't control, something that's outside your sphere of control, there's no point in worrying about it because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So there's no point in worrying.
Yeah.
There's no point in getting yourself wound up when you can do something about it. And if you can't do anything about it, there's no point in getting yourself wound up.
It's true. Yeah.
How does that sound like a sensible thing to do?
It all sounds sensible, but at the heat of the moment, sometimes it can go out the window.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's where your training kicks
That's
in,
when
I suppose.
self-control comes in. Yeah.
Yeah, self-control, self-discipline. That's what you need. And
Hang on, I'm being shouted at.
Oh,
What?
shout back at them.
What?
So, from that perspective, if you go back to
Hang on a minute, Tim. I've got to answer the door.
all right, I'll carry on talking then. No problem, Harry. I can control this. This is in my sphere of control. I shan't worry about Harry coming back because he will or he won't. And if he doesn't, then I'll just carry on. So you can see, I have control over that. I don't have control over whether Harry will come back or not. But what I'm doing is I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm going to carry on talking. So what we've got the next slide on. Here we go. Right. As I was saying earlier, the trauma risk management. This is all about
Elvis is back in the building.
Here he is. So I just moved on from the last slide, and we're looking now at the trim.
Yeah.
And where you can find the information. I did a quick search today. I just typed in trim, and it came up with this. This is obviously a company that provides training.
All right.
It doesn't. You don't have to be in the military and getting in a firefight or getting in a blast or anything like that to need trim. It can come from a car accident.
Yeah.
You see a fatal car accident that can have effect. So if you get a chance to employ this trim process, it can help with any problems that you run into later in life. Dealing with it at a time, being able to talk about it, being able to put it into perspective, whether you could have done anything about it. It's not unusual to feel the feelings that you feel after seeing something like that. And if those feelings if that still playing on your mind, then that's the time to go and seek some professional help to get it sorted out, to talk it through. And by doing that, it alleviates the problems further down the road, getting your mental health sorted out on it.
Yes.
So the healing process is really, really good. There was something else I found. I think this one, mental health first aid. It's a really good course. This is all about the individual's mental health and looking after yourself. So I found this on. I just put in mental health first aid, and this is one of the slides that come up. And what the mental health first aid does, it talks through identifying problems. It identifies, or it gives you, the individual, the opportunity to identify looking after yourself. That's what this course is all about. Mental health first aid. It's for you, the individual, to get to understand what your mental health state is, and to identify any problems that you're going to get. And that's what it does. It gives you the tools to identify whether you're having a drama or not, whether it's looking after your own well-being. And it's all out there on the internet.
Yeah. One thing.
This is something else I found. Mental health first aid, and this is the Mental Health First Aid England. They own it. Basically, they do it for the military, they do it for the emergency services, and they do it for individual groups. Yeah. And they do it as a course. You can book into, I think, your local area. I'll have someone that's running this course, and you go along, do the course, and hopefully that will give you the tools to be able to look after your own mental health, to identify when you're having some problems. It gives you enough information to be able to go and seek out professional help.
Yeah.
And the sooner that you can go out and do that, the sooner you get yourself sorted out. What else have we got? There you go. This is something else I found. Mental health first aid training. There's loads of courses out there.
Yeah.
Lots of people are doing it. It's a big
thing. They're finding out more and more that mental health is a big issue.
Yeah.
Especially over the last couple of years. It's come to the more forefront.
I think we haven't even seen the problem with that yet.
No.
The last 2 years is probably not going to come to real fruition for a decade or so.
Yeah,
but
it'll take about a decade to come out. I mean, a lot of the nursing staff and ambulance crews that were dealing with all these people, the morticians, I mean, they were piling up bodies. They couldn't even. They were just putting them in the freezers basically because they just couldn't get through with them.
And then you've got mugs like me that are retired that were stuck indoors, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, could get to the shops to buy half a dozen bottles of a case of spiced rum and have to go back at the weekend to get another case.
Drink yourself silly. I know you've been on the end of that.
I was drinking an awful lot of spiced rum. And I woke up one morning and I thought, I've got to stop drinking this. I've got to find something to do. I mean, it's really, really easy to get into that rut of just drinking because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So that's why I ended up getting into this podcast malarkey that I'm into, and that occupied my time.
That's it.
I did 24 half-an-hour episodes of my life.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there that is suffering from insomnia and needs to
listen to those,
put one of my podcasts on, you'll be out like a light.
Yeah. Or a couple of mine on.
Either that, or you find it that interesting it'll keep you awake all night.
Yeah. I know a few of your friends thought my podcasts were a bit near the mark.
Yeah, they were fun. So that's how I got into the podcasting thing. And then I got to the end of those 24 episodes of my life, and I thought, what do I do? So I did a couple of more in-depth stuff that I'd done, and I got to that, and I thought, do I crack a bottle open and celebrate, or what do I do? Do I start with
friends?
Do I start on somebody else? So I did. So here comes Steve. Hopefully Steve has kind of got himself sorted out. And how you doing there, Steve?
Hi Tim, I think I've got you back again now. I've just seen that I've increased back to 4G from 3G. I lost you for about the last 30 miles of my journey.
All right.
That was it,
not too bad, to be honest. The traffic on the M1's it's flowing at least. Just down towards sort of Watford area, not far off of the M25. So.
All right.
M25's been a nightmare all day.
Yeah, so you're a little bit on the quiet side, Steve. So.
Can you hear me?
Which Steve?
I think I might have just lost you again.
You Harry, yeah. Yeah, so it's a little bit up and down there. So Steve is on his hands-free, I'm sure, and we pre-arranged that he was going to come in when he was on his drive home.
Yeah.
Why people working this time of night, I don't know.
Rob, lucky on it. He's done.
Yeah. So we're just talking about mental health first aid courses and where you can find those. And so the St John's ambulances run them.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's gone off.
Yeah. So I think we've lost him again.
Yeah. That's the problem when you're driving. You're dropping between two signals. But
that's it.
You know. So mental health first aid courses, I know that they're looking at making it a part of a course in schools. So they're going to run these courses in schools. So kids are going to get the benefit of understanding what problems can occur, and they're going to get first class training in mental health first aid. So hopefully generations to come won't have the same issues that the current generation suffering from.
Yeah, I can understand that. Sounds like a great idea. And also, the people most probably doing the training will be able to pick up from those that have got problems.
Absolutely. Well, it's not really designed to that, but it also does give you an awareness of what the problems can be, and to identify it firstly in yourself, but also those around you.
Yeah.
So this is something else I found. There was a press release back in August 21. They're going to throw an awful lot of money at veterans' mental health. 2.7 million to boost the coffers for that, which is good news. I mean, veterans are probably the ones that are going to be suffering more than anybody else with mental health problems.
Yes,
I believe so. Particularly the last generation that have come through from the sort of early mid 90s to sort of the current day, really, where
Yeah.
we've been constantly in conflict zones. So
Well, yeah. I mean, literally, they were going for 6 months between these conflict zones, weren't they?
yeah, I mean, you
Getting a
get
few
one of
months
them
off and then going back again.
guys like myself. I mean, I did 7 operational tours in 10 years,
Yeah,
at 6 months at a time.
yeah,
You're almost doing back-to-back tours.
yeah,
You come off one tour, you have your leave, you side up, and you go back on for another 6 months.
yeah.
So
Just winding down and you go back again.
yeah, it's a funny old game. I mean, they used to call us mobilising through Chilwell habitual offenders. So
Picture ends.
yeah, we used to go up there. And no sooner we sort of demobbed. We'd had a sort of month or 6 weeks off of leave after a 6 month tour, and then we're back at it again for another go.
Yeah.
So I found myself coming out of Macedonia, had me leave, and then I found myself in Kabul 5 months after coming back.
Phew, bloody hell.
But
Change
yeah,
of
I mean,
scenery.
Kabul was really good. I mean, I
Yeah,
really enjoyed Kabul. I mean, it was a bit dodgy when I first got there because it was so cold and there wasn't an awful lot of people around at all. But and then as the time went over, the weather changed and the streets started to fill up, and it was a lot harder to get around because of traffic jams.
well, that's what people don't understand, how cold it is out in
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
I, I mean, this at the moment where you've got all this going on in Ukraine, everything's Ukraine. You turn the
Yeah,
telly on, everything's Ukraine. All the aid pouring into Ukraine or into the surrounding area, Poland
yeah,
and the like. But it's all being diverted from what was destined for Afghanistan.
yeah.
Afghanistan hasn't gone away. The problem's got
No,
worse. There's something around about 25 million. That's 25 million Afghans that are starving and freezing at the moment. They're
yeah,
dying in their droves.
yeah,
There's there's kids up on the border where these aid trucks are coming in. They're climbing on these aid trucks. They're falling off, falling under the wheels, and being killed and maimed. And nobody is doing anything. It's not making any of the world's press. Um,
no.
Again, there's
It's
the
worse.
conflict
It's
in
like,
Sudan.
yeah, Sudan.
Yemen.
That's another one.
That's all going on. It
Yeah,
hasn't gone away.
well, that's been
It's
going
just
on for
the press
decades.
are ignoring it.
Yeah, yeah,
So it is a concern. It is a real
yeah,
concern of what's going on out there. So if there's
yeah.
anybody looking down there, can I just pop a comment in the comments box and say hi, just to let us
The
know that
the
we're
UN has sort of forgotten about the Sudan and Afghanistan and all those sort of
yeah,
places. It's sort of,
it's still going on
yeah,
and nobody's doing anything about it. I mean, the Taliban have tried to get some sort of legitimacy to get some some help, but I think that they'd actually only just help themselves. They wouldn't help out the
yeah. That's the problem. They're just out for themselves. They're not out to form a
yeah
government or run it legitimately. They just want to run it like a
yeah
yeah. What do they call them? The
yeah. They just want to be oligarchs, don't they?
yeah, that's it. They just want to be.
They're just after their own wealth. They're
That's
just
it.
after
Their own wealth and power,
themselves.
and sod the rest of them. As long as
Yeah,
I'm okay, you're just scum to me. That's what it is.
but I've
And
heard
they're
that
just
they're
like the
stopping
warlords,
people
aren't
leaving
they?
the country.
Well, this is it. They're just like the warlords. They're just as bad out there,
Yeah,
aren't they? And they treat everybody like scum and break money in for them and other bits.
Yeah. They have banned people on leaving the country. So the problem is that they're not issuing passports, or if they are issuing passports, they just take it forever to issue them.
Yeah.
So, and then if you do get your passport and they get a visa, you're still not allowing people to leave the country.
That's it.
So
Yes.
it's a vicious circle out there. It really is.
Well, the
So
thing
anyway,
was, the thing was there. Yeah. Well, I suppose they're suffering out there with their own mental health problems and other things.
Yeah. I mean, and there isn't the help out there either.
No.
I mean, they see some terrible things.
Oh God, beheadings and shootings.
Yeah. I mean, that's not gone away. I mean, they are still actively looking for people that helped us out, that
Yeah.
helped out
Yeah, I know.
NGOs and everything like that. Anybody that was out there helping out any infidels or anybody that came into the country to help the country, they're seeking and they're trying to take them out. It's awful, really is. Doesn't bear thinking about.
No.
But coming back to the mental health thing, this is something else I found on the internet today. Just did a quick search. Visit the NHS.
Yeah.
And there's loads and loads of information on there on how to go about getting help.
I found with the NHS, a lot of it's basically online. Trying to get an actual face-to-face appointment is quite difficult.
Well, back before COVID, a couple of years before COVID, I was struggling a little bit, and I couldn't work out why.
Yeah.
I'd be watching something silly on the telly, a cartoon or something like that, and it's a bit of a sad one, and I just start sort of feeling really, really emotional.
Yeah.
This had gone on for a while, so I thought better seek some help because I've done the old mental first aid course, and I've done the trim practitioners course, and I've done the trim coordinators course, and being a welfare officer, identified that something ain't quite right, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. So I went to see the quack. He recommended us on, and it was a few months later that I forget what this team was called, but they contacted me to go and do an assessment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've gone and had a chat with these people, and bless them, I mean, they weren't an awful lot of good to me. They didn't understand what I'd been through, where I'd come from.
Yeah.
The problem with the civilian network is they don't understand the military mind. And from that point of view, I had about 4 sessions, and they couldn't really help.
No.
And this is before this was set up.
Yeah.
The Veterans Reserve Mental Health Program. So I could have dropped into this had it been around at the time. It's only been going for a couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could have dropped into that. I did say that. I mean, I was an ex-regular. I was military, and is there anybody that's on a military net that I could talk to? And at that time, they didn't have things. Had they did, then they might have been able to open up a bit more. But
yeah,
but I did. I kind of saw
the lady I was talking to,
didn't
really understand the military side of it.
Yeah, so it's difficult, and it's difficult to open up somebody that doesn't understand what you've been through.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the problem. If they
Yeah.
don't understand where you come from, they don't understand your mentality, they don't understand, yeah,
Different
then it's
attitudes.
difficult for them to be able to
Yeah.
advise or treat or whatever they do.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's what I've gone through.
Yeah.
My
The lady
experience.
I was seeing her says she was helpful, but not as helpful as I needed.
Yeah,
I mean, I've only come to terms with various things, as you say. There's things in your control that you can control, and there's things
yeah,
outside of your control you just have to deal with.
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Anyway, to that end, I came across a group around here a couple of months ago. Now I guess it is called Ravens Hall, and it's a group of veterans
I
that,
remember you saying about them. Yeah.
yeah. So one of those guys was going to, or a couple of those guys was going to come on tonight, but
Yeah, as you say, they've had to go
they've
off.
run into a few dramas that they're dealing with at the moment. But what these guys do is they meet up once a week, and then they have a call in as well during the week just to check up on everybody, make sure everybody's okay. And now it's like a buddy system that they run, and they turn up once a week and they have tea and
Discussions.
cake,
Yeah.
and everybody's they all also sort of a week they've had, and whether they're having a good week or a bad week,
Yeah.
and they all help and support each other, which is a really good thing. I've been down there a
But
few times.
I suppose that's a bit like being back in the army or the navy or whatever service you were in.
Yeah,
It's like having your friends around who you can talk to
exactly
about
that.
things.
It's
Yeah.
these guys that you can have a bit of banter with them, and they get it,
Yeah.
and they're there to help each other, and they're getting funding. They're getting a little bit of funding through just to pay for the accommodation that they're using, and to pay for the teas and the coffees.
All right. That's good enough.
So I mean, it's not a lot, but
No,
it
it all helps. Every little helps, as they say.
it does help the program,
Yeah.
and it's good. It is veterans looking after veterans, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's what you need.
Yeah. Talking of veterans, helping veterans, I'm going off to there's a group meeting up in London on the 11th of April,
Right.
and it's a demonstration. I think they're going to start off at Trafalgar Square and going down to Parliament Square. It's all to do with the old vexatious claims against veterans from Northern Ireland, and that hasn't gone away. That's still
Yeah, I
there.
know. It's still brewing in the background. I like that. They get away with murder, and we get flaming charged with murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the, I think it's the Friday, the Good Friday. There's Rolling Thunder. So I'm going up on a motorbike. So I think the group on the Monday, the 11th, is while Parliament's still sitting, because they normally say Rolling Thunder goes up there when there's nobody there. No point in really sort of protesting if there's nobody in Parliament. So
they never even put it on the telly, do they?
No.
The media ignore it.
As the motorbikes descend on London, and not a breath on the news, not a mention.
Well, there's a lot of things that go on that's never mentioned on the news. A hell of a lot.
For veterans, boys.
Yeah.
particularly veteran wise.
Yes.
Anything to do with it's only ever negative news about the military, unless
Yeah.
we're helping out with a disaster or something, and that's the bit that really pisses me off. You've got take the vaccine rollout.
Yep.
Okay, there's 1 million people work in the NHS.
Yep.
There are about 1 million people in the NHS.
Yep.
There's about 66,000 troops in the army.
Yep.
You lump in the sort of 30 odd thousand in the Navy and the sort of 15,000 in the RAF. We barely make 100,000
Yep.
put together. Yet, whenever there's a disaster, whenever there's a crisis, the first people they call in is the military to
Yep.
go and sort it out.
Well,
The
look, all the
military,
flooding that was happening, it
yeah,
was the military they brought out to sort that out.
yeah, go and fill bloody sandbags, put up what's named defences.
Yep.
So all this bloody COVID tested.
Well, a lot of
Half
that
of
was
the
done by
half
the
of the
military.
teams were reservists that got mobilised to go and do it.
Yeah.
It's pick on the military all the time. Yet they won't give them the resources. They won't recruit.
Well,
I mean,
look at all the
it's difficult
cutbacks
to
we've had
recruit
over
when
the
there's a
last
war.
15 years. I mean, the
Yeah.
last 20 years, all the cutbacks we've had.
Yeah,
Cut back and cut back and cut back. And we're down to such a small services, not just the army, all the services are
Yeah.
so small now. You could put them all in Wembley Stadium.
you
You
can.
still
You
fill all the
can. You get
seats.
them all in. You get them all into Twickenham.
Yeah.
Well, I think most of them are down there on Army
Yeah.
Navy Day anyway.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
That's when they shut all the pubs.
That's it.
You can't get a pint on that day because they shut all the pubs. Yeah, yeah, they don't like the army coming to town. Army Navy.
Boo. And the
But,
bruises. Anyway,
just
Tim, I'm going to have to
you're going to
leave
knock
you.
me on the head.
I am, I'm afraid. Getting near my
Right,
bedtime.
I've got half an hour to go.
Okay, Tim. Well, you have a good rest of the night, and hopefully
Yeah,
I'll be down your way soon and bump into you.
yeah, give us a shout, and
I will
we'll stand you a cup of tea.
do. Okay, Tim. All the best. And if
You take
anybody
it
else
easy,
out there,
and I'll catch up with you soon.
catch up with you soon, Tim.
Thanks
Okay,
for
mate.
joining.
Bye.
Au revoir, bonne chance. So that's how he joined us, and he's just off to his bed because I dare say he's going to have to get up after halfway through the night to go to work. So I'm just going to take a short break. Let me just find the right short break. Boom, 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 boom. That one. Right. Okay, I'm back in the room. So we've got another half an hour to go just to finish off. So we were talking about what's going on with the old mental health issues. So there's a lot of help out there. All you've got to do is ask for it. And it's not just veterans that it affects. It can affect anybody. Anybody can suffer with mental health issues. So, oh, here you go. I'm okay, thanks, Tom. There you go. We've got another guy that's just popped up. So let's what we're doing here. Let's do that. We'll do that. Give us half a second just to sort something out here. There you go, Tom. I've just sent you the link. If you want to come in and join. So, where were we? We were talking about what's occurring nowadays. So it's not just veterans that are struggling with the mental health. There's a lot of civilians that are suffering, particularly over the last 2 years, where life has, as we know, has been pretty grim. The COVID's been pretty bad for everybody, I think. It's not been a good outcome. It's going to cost the country billions. And it's just I don't know how it's all gonna pan out. Well, I've got another guest just coming in. Let's just bring you into the room, Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Bit late tonight, mate.
No worries. At least you're here. So
Just by chance to come across you.
We've not had a too bad evening. A couple of guys I had coming on, unfortunately, have had to shoot off and help out some guys. There's a couple of veterans that have had a bit of a problem this week, so they unfortunately got called away to go and help them out. But another guy was driving down from Bedford, and it just couldn't keep the signal up. And but Harry joined us anyway. But we've gone through some stuff tonight.
Just on asking me how I am, I don't know if we had the last conversation, but I'm now running two drop-ins.
All right.
I run one on a regular Thursday, and then I run another one at a different venue in the same town, Littlehampton, and that's on every second Friday of the month. I'm thinking of turning the regular Thursday one into a fortnightly one, like the other one, because we're not getting the footfall at the moment.
We'll do it alternate weeks.
Yeah. Okay. They're both good venues. One's near the railway station. It's the Thursday one, Age UK, Littlehampton United Church, 10 till 12.
Yeah.
During the summer, I should think families can come down to the coast for the day and then pop in.
Yeah.
Then we've got another venue, which is at the other end of the town by the town hall, and it's the CIO local community support hub for groups to go and have activities like knitting or making things.
All right.
And they have a very cheap cafe. Nice cake.
So where can they get this information, Tom?
They can get it from me, Armed Forces Family UK, my Facebook group, or Armed Forces Family PTSD and Mental Health Support. Both Facebook groups.
Armed Forces, you say?
Yeah, Armed Forces Family.
Armed Forces
Been
Family.
around now since 2014. Most of the time when you do a Google, it comes up.
That's on Facebook, is it?
No, they're not. I'm toying with putting up a Facebook group purely for the peer group. But the two forces groups that I told you, Armed Forces Family and the PTSD one, are both on Facebook.
All right.
You do not need an Armed Forces connection. All you have to do is, when you answer 3 questions, is how did you hear of it, wherever you heard it from? Do you agree to obey the rules? And do you have a forces connection? And if you don't, you just put, I support the Armed Forces. Because many are siblings, many are widows, widowers, and many have failed a medical.
I'll just put that on a scroll for you. So it's Armed Forces Family and PTSD groups on Facebook.
Yeah.
Search for them.
Armed Forces Family UK.
Let's change that then. Hang on. Let's get it right.
No, I didn't. I think I missed it. I think I didn't tell you right.
You didn't.
The reason we're saying it is because we get quite a lot want to join from America. And a lot of groups allow these other vets from America. But to be honest with you, it sometimes clouds the issue.
Yeah. Well, I've done a few podcasts with American veterans and speaking about the difference between us and them. And they tend to have a much better way of looking after their veterans. They've got the Veterans Administration, they've got VA hospitals, they all things American, they do things a lot bigger than anybody else. So they do look after their veterans considerably better than we get looked after.
Yeah, but we're getting there. People like us are pushing for change.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, awareness more than anything else.
Yeah, that's what tonight's been all about, is making people aware of mental health issues that the military particularly suffer, and where to get help from, and to destigmatise it. I think that's the main thing we're trying to push across, is it's okay to not be okay. Everybody can suffer from it. It doesn't matter how tough you are. Mental health issues can affect anybody.
45 years ago, I left the army, and it was only diagnosed in 2017.
Yeah. So it can affect anybody from way back, or and do you think, Tom, if you'd have gone through the trim process at the time that we've got now, and gone through the mental health first aid course, would that have helped negate the issues you've got now?
To be honest with you, I'm looking at all this, and I've just come across these two new parts of transitional help. I've got to look into it, right? I'm trying to become a volunteer for the Rifles. They've got a new scheme up, and they're volunteers. They're doing courses for them.
Yeah,
first aid will be one of them.
We've got this here, which is the trauma risk management. which helps at the time. I mean, you're involved in a traumatic incident, and 72 hours after the incident, you talk through it with the guys. You assess how they're feeling at the time, and then you assess them again in sort of 3 weeks or 4 weeks time or 30 days later to see if there's any changes, to see if there's any improvements or deteriorations in their condition, and if there is, then you could signpost them on. Obviously, you let them know at the 72-hour point that if they are struggling at coping with it, then seek help there and then. But if they're doing okay, you assess them at the 30-day, and then you assess them again at the 3 months point. And if they are struggling at all, then you can signpost them on to a professional.
Well, in 77, when I left, I'd gone through a period where my eldest brother, serving in the Blues and Royals, was killed in Germany. I got no bereavement counselling, and basically, my mother didn't want either of us in the forces because we come from an Irish family. So she knew a little bit more about politics than I did. And I went out there, eyes were opened, and I could see the writing on the wall with the rules of engagement card. So I could see the litigation and the court cases looming. And I thought to myself, well, do I really want to be out here? I'm a risk to me, I'm a risk to myself, but I'm also a risk to my comrades. But I didn't realise that I was having an accumulation of different events building on top of the recent one, which really brought it home. Then that all got buried the minute I left because there was no assessment of me or any transitional help. And then I had the trauma of almost being homeless, which then triggered the dormant PTSD.
Yeah.
I've only now got, in the last sort of year or so, got the housing sorted out. And then alongside that has come along a new GP surgery that we had to join. We had no choice.
Yeah.
The first thing it had on the application form was, have you served in the forces? Well, I knew this should be on the application forms because I've been keeping abreast of things, but it's the first time I'd ever seen it. So when I went to see a GP there, because we are in an area where Russington is, where they've shut an RAF holiday home and the blind people from Brighton are coming over, he was aware of veterans within the area. And he couldn't believe how me and my wife have been treated. He tried to go through the referral systems, TILS, NHS. He got nowhere. Right? We now have an appointed OT from the surgery. And at the moment, my wife's going through an assessment with social services for her housing needs.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know whether you've seen this one come up.
Contact with this new GP, I'd still be on a very lack of support. And it's only because I became aware of the high intensity service, because I'm familiar with all call signs, and I managed to get into that. But quite honestly, that's very nice. It's 1 hour of a phone call where I can rant and rave like I'm doing now, but I can't change anything. I've got a neighbour that should have been at least gone to court for trying to break into our house. I've got a housing association that, though we're all vulnerable and we're being treated differently, and they've even ignored the OT who wanted to work as an advocate between them. So little things can create major problems to a veteran with, or any civilian with mental illness, not just a veteran.
Yeah.
This is something else that a lot of people don't recognise. We are being treated differently as veterans. But why? Why are we being treated differently? GP surgeries and GP hospitals shouldn't just be veteran friendly; they should be client friendly.
And clearly some of them aren't, and some of them are.
Yeah,
I mean, this was announced back in August last year that that's around £2.7 million boost for veterans' mental health support.
yeah,
And this has come out from Social Care, Ministry of Defence, Office of Veterans Affairs, Cabinet Office, Savage Javid, Leo Doherty, and Ben Wallace. So they've all put their names to that. So how you get access to that, I haven't got a Scooby. But
and when you do get access to it, they change it all.
yeah. So there you go. So at least it's being recognised nowadays.
Yeah.
I think we're just at a very, very tip of an iceberg with this mental health for veterans. I think the last 20, 25 years where we've been in conflicts pretty much since sort of early mid 90s right up until sort of now, I think there's going to be an awful lot of veterans having dramas down the line.
Yeah, because this is what I was trying to say to somebody else earlier. You link it in with COVID, then you got not enough social housing being built, then you got redundancies within the forces. Suddenly, some blokes out of the service facing living on the streets, and at the end of the day, that can create a dormant PTSD like mine to be triggered.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about Ukraine at the moment, and getting people to give up spare rooms for Ukrainian refugees. But what's happening for the veterans that are living on the street that can't cope, that can't find anywhere to live because they're not entitled to anything?
Well, you're saying that, see, now you're coming back to the other problem we got. The government have changed all the legislation towards the tenants' rights. So a lot of the private landlords that are rogue landlords, some of them have got out of the market altogether. The good ones are sometimes now leaving. And now you've got a crisis within housing for the civilian population. Then you've got it within the forces population. And now we've got the immigrants coming from conflicts elsewhere.
Not to mention the illegal migrants that's coming across.
The bubble's going to burst, and pretty soon for the veteran population, because many of them are renting, and if their landlord sells and they can't get another place because you have to pass all these a guarantor if you're on any welfare benefit, you have to pass the means whether you can
means testing,
pay it, and the deposit, and the rents are going up because there's less housing, and many of the veterans have got dogs,
and the demand for problem. It's a vicious circle, and I'm not quite sure where it's all going to end, but it's not going to end very well for anybody, I don't think.
No, and we haven't really paid any of our debts off.
No,
because
we've just put ourselves into debt for about 3 trillion at the moment.
Yeah, but if they were to collect some of this offshore tax haven money, that would go a long way to, putting stuff in. Right, we just the two of us now. Is the other fella gone?
Yeah, he's gone to bed. He's got an early start in the morning.
Right.
He's still out to work for a living.
So you thought you were going to get an early finish?
Oh no, I've got another recording to do after this.
Yeah, I'm like a bad penny. I just turn up.
Yeah.
and then you try and get rid of me, and I just carry on talking for England.
Well, we've got another 9 minutes to go, and then we're out of it.
But
so Neil Hampton's your group then?
Pardon?
say Littlehampton, you've got 2 groups running down there.
2 new Facebook, 2 new peer drop-in support groups.
Yeah.
One at different ends of the town on different days. And one of the groups is a regular Thursday meet. We get a lot of support from Morrison's with free biscuits for one venue, and Age UK for the other venue. If I want to go into a private room, they won't charge me for the room.
That's good of them.
Yeah. Whereas the other one wants £15 off me for a room where obviously I can offer privacy. But quite honestly, the numbers that are turning up don't justify the hire of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to look into trying to get it funded. I'm hoping the Littlehampton Breakfast Club will help me, subject to a PM tonight. What I need is like a banner, because the one at the Age UK is based in a Littlehampton church. And it's almost right next to the railway station. So you come around this little mini roundabout, you hit the church. If you carried on driving over the roundabout, you'd hit the wall to the church. And there are boards in different positions advertising the cafeteria, Age UK. So I need a banner to tie on the wall or a tree, just to grab people's attention as they come around the roundabout.
Have you approached the local council for some funding for that sort of thing?
No, because I had all these issues when I ran my breakfast club in Bognor. The fact that I'm not a CIO makes it difficult, which is my next goal, to set up a CIO.
Yeah.
Or a CIC, but the CIO is the one I've been told to go for, right? Because there's only a certain amount of money in the pot for the council to dish out to community groups, and you really need to be sort of on the ball as the money's being set aside.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of money in the system.
Yeah. But like I say,
just needs tapping into.
I've mentioned it to the chap who runs Littlehampton Forces Breakfast Club. Yeah. He knows I'm trying to do something completely different to the Breakfast Club mission, and it's another breakdown social stigma, social isolation over a cup of tea, and hopefully as the weather improves, people might jump on the train and say, let's go down to Tom, right? He's down at Littlehampton.
Yeah.
Let's bring a bucket and spade with us and we go on the beach and play Dad's Army. we will fight them on the beaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the long-term plans.
Yeah. Do you have quite a few veterans in the area then, Tom?
We've got Russington, which is quite a few. There's so many veterans that the Breakfast Club that started in Littlehampton had a fallout with some members, and they set up their own splinter group. There's a new Veterans Breakfast Club now started in Bognor, which is under the wing of the Littlehampton Breakfast Club. So basically, quite a nice one on a Sunday at Aldwick. Quite a nice big pub, nice venue. A lot of these breakfast clubs that are running pubs and all that, the venue tends to be a bit on the small side. They're not really well catering for the disabled, whereas the one in Aldwick has got ramps, toilets, it's got the works, right, and a nice price for the grub.
Can't go far wrong there. Well, we run a breakfast, a big breakfast the other Saturday that was sponsored by the Royal Anglian Regiment for Royal Anglian veterans and serving soldiers that live around the sort of Portsmouth Gosport area. And they had them right across the country. It was about 45.
I think I almost went to one, but they wanted me to put a blazer on.
It's nothing wrong with putting a blazer
on. And tie. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No, I've got one. I mean, to be honest with you, my comrade, my rifleman, when they heard about me a few years ago, about my low income, I'd expressed this opinion about the reunion at Winchester had a dress code, and we didn't go because of that. And then there was a number of veterans riflemen passing away, and I felt that I really couldn't attend the services not properly attired. So, without my knowledge, some of the riflemen got together in a pub, and the next thing I know is I've got a blazer coming to me in the post.
Well, it's a result there then.
Yeah.
But for funerals, Tom, I mean, it's the fact that you turn up. It's not what you.
Well, this was my argument about the reunion as well, which the reunion, and they were moaning about people, numbers dwindling, and I'm thinking, yeah, but you're not in the army anymore. It's all well and good being dressed smart, but what happens if you're homeless? And I say to you, oh, there's a reunion up at Winchester. Would you like to come along with me? And then some snotty fella turns around and says, looks down at you and says, no, you're not attired properly.
That doesn't happen in our regiment. And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't happen in your regiment either.
I think they've changed it all. Yeah.
I mean, we have a gathering up at Duxford every year, and it's a regimental gathering, and it takes in not just the Royal Anglian Regiment, but it takes in our forebearers, the Linkers, Leicesters, Northamptons, all of the East of England regiments. And I mean, lots of us turn up with blazers and ties, and we have a drum head service, and then we have a march past to remember all our fallen. But it's down to people what they wear. Nobody holds anybody to task if they haven't got a blazer and tie on.
At the end of the day, like you say, you attend because
it's the fact that you turn up. And it's the same when we've funerals for guys. It's the fact that you're paying your respects. It's not what you're dressed in.
Yeah, quite. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? That some of them sort of go a little bit
I think those sort of dinosaurs, just somebody just had a word with and say, wind your neck in.
Yeah, quite. Right. This
so I think we're just about there, Tom.
Yeah, I was just thinking that actually. Yeah, my eyelids are going a bit heavy.
So I'm just going to pop you out of the room while I close the show down.
Yeah. Well, I've got other things to do, so I'm fine. Right. So now I know where you are. I need to sort myself out and put a diary slot in somewhere to remind me.
I won't be doing one next week because I'm not here, but we'll have another chat the following week.
Yeah. Like I say, it doesn't always have to be about mental health. It's all about other stuff as well.
We talk about all sorts of things. The next one will be an open forum.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Right, Tom. Thanks for joining in.
That's right.
Well, that's Tom, and this is it. This is the end of the show. Another couple of minutes to go. Right, next week we won't be doing one. It'll be the following week, and the following week we'll be doing an open forum. So we'll be talking about all manner of stuff. So make a note in your diary. Thursday, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock on a Thursday, and the next one's just going to be a bit of a laugh. So thanks for listening.
The Tim Heale Thirsty Thursday live stream from 7 until 9 weekly. Here's your host, Tim Heale.